Today I wanted to talk about a pretty common and very popular plant that people use in their exotic and Mediterranean style gardens. This is a Yucca rostrata. It's also known as the beaked yucca. Usually you just see it as Yucca rostrata. The rostrata name comes from the shape of the flowers. They kind of look like bird beaks, but I'm here in Houston, Zone 9B. Yucca rostrata is actually found in the Big Bend area of Texas, so probably about 6 hours west of me, and in parts of Mexico. And really great, pretty carefree plant. A lot of people mistake these as palm trees, which they're not. It is a yucca. And these are actually pretty hardy, so you will regularly see them listed as zone 5 through 10. What I can tell you is that I have heard from people that grow them in colder zones that zone 5, when they start trunking, it's possible that they can get killed. So I think for trunking purposes, you probably need to be in a little bit of a warmer zone. So you can see that these have the nice steely blue coloring to the leaves. There is a variety called Sapphire Skies, which is supposed to be more blue. It was introduced by Cistus Nursery out of Portland, Oregon. And what I would say about these is they are very easy to take care of. Now, you're going to want to plant them in a full sun location. They do come from the desert, so most people associate these with cactus and being not requiring water. And what I would say to that is yes, they are very drought tolerant. However, water them in the summer. They normally get water in the summer. And if you want them to grow, you should water them. I've never fertilized mine. The only thing I've done is just make sure that they're in a full sun location and that they have pretty good drainage. They are somewhat forgiving. They can tolerate more clay than you think, but you definitely don't want them in a wet, soppy spot. The leaves, they do have a sharp point, so you got to be careful with your eyeballs. And then even like if you were to like run your fingers along it can cut you. So just be cognizant of that. How big do they get? Well, you'll see all sorts of things. They'll say 10 to 15 feet. I have seen them that big. I have some pictures I will show you. There was one in Oregon for sale, and it was multi-headed. So these will eventually throw up a big giant bloom stalk, very similar to other types of yuccas, the big white bell-shaped flowers. And when that bloom stalk dies, often what happens is you'll get more than one growing point so that these things can branch. And I have seen a big branched one. It is quite interesting. So I wanted to film the ones I have here, partly for my own sake, just to see how much they grow. So you'll read that they're a slow grower. I would say that they're probably moderate, depending on your climate. I planted one about this size, and within 6 years, it was as tall as me. So I don't think that I would call that slow, but that's just my opinion. You'll notice when the leaves turn brown, they kind of fall down, and eventually what they'll do is they'll form a skirt. And some people choose to remove that skirt. Some people leave it. In the wild or in nature, you will see the skirt attached. For places that receive a lot of sun, that can provide protection to the trunk. So you may want to think about whether or not you want to remove it. You can cut them. I've done it before on my smaller ones. So you can cut each of the individual leaves. Whoever did this did a really poor job. You can get them actually pretty close to the trunk, and it almost gives like a little diamond shape to it. What I suggest is, trimming the leaves. Like you see how these ones are on the ground? Eventually, as this goes up, the old leaves won't touch the ground. I remove anything that touches the ground because when it rains in that, I don't want it to wick up that moisture. They will get, black spotting and things like that. So I like to keep it dry. As this one grows, maybe the bottom couple inches I'll have pruned, but then after that I'll most likely leave the skirt. Again, it's up to you. Some people continually trim them. My only thing I would say is try and not remove the blue or the green, the green leaves on them. The plant's using that. You're going to slow it down, so it's best just to leave it alone. I planted this one not that long ago, actually, maybe a couple months ago. And right over here, I have its twin. So this one doesn't look as good. Color's good. The leaves aren't nearly as big, and I left this one in the pot because I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put it. So these actually do reasonably well in pots, so that if you live in a bit of a colder zone, you can always bring them in the garage or something like that. But for the most part, most people will be able to grow these, but you can use them in pots. I've seen it quite often, again, while draining soil. So the one drawback I would say to these plants is generally the price. They're not cheap. So my last batch, I had some trunking ones, and I did grow some from a 1 gallon size, and within 6 years they had about a foot of trunk. So not super fast, but they were small plants to begin with, and I actually never watered them. But for anything with trunk like this one, it's probably got about a foot. So I got these at Lowe's. Believe it or not, that's actually a pretty good price. If you were to go to a nursery, something like this, it's going to be around $400. Now, I saw these at Lowe's, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and eventually they made their way to the clearance table, so I got them for half price. So $100 each. I think that's a great deal. Prior to finding these, I found this one. And the reason I bought this one is that there were 3 of them, or at least 3 growing points inside the pot. And I thought that there was a good chance I could remove these. When I buy yuccas, I try and look for ones that have multiple plants in the pot, because generally they're very tough plants and they don't mind the root disturbance that much, so that way you get more plants. But I was cleaning it up yesterday, and I decided to keep all 3 together. I haven't seen 3 grown together like this. I do like to grow plants in clumpings, and odd numbers always look best. 1, 3, 5. So we got 3 here. So it should be interesting to see how this one turns out. 1 there, 1 there, and there's 1 in the back. And whether or not having 3 together will slow it down. Now, I was not able to determine if this was just 1 plant with multiple growing points, but I suspect it's 3 plants. It was heavily root bound, so I just tried to tease up the roots while draining soil, and I'll just make sure it's well watered, and that's about it. We'll just let this one grow, and I would expect that eventually they're gonna want to push away from one another, but it should be a very large, impressive clump. I had a loropetalum in this spot, and it was 99% dead because it's just too hot and dry in this place, this particular area. And so this one should do well. I will water it though. So this video was partly for me so that I could keep track and see how things go. This is, we're just a few days away from Halloween. I just planted this one yesterday. So there you go, guys. Yucca Rostrata. Definitely a must-have for any tropical garden, Mediterranean style garden. It's obviously a wonderful architectural plant. So I definitely highly recommend this for everyone. Thanks for watching.